How's it going, everybody? I thought I would address something that nobody really seems to talk about in America anymore right now. It really hasn't been talked about in a couple of years, really not even since Trump has been elected president of the United States. One of the worst things that we have to fear in this country, the only real threat in our own borders that are a danger to the public liberty, and that's the Federal Reserve Bank, which is neither federal or a reserve or a bank. It's a privately owned business. Okay. And I thought I would go over just a brief history of privately owned central banking in this country. Now, the founding fathers knew that privately owned banks were dangerous. They had destroyed the economy of England. They had destroyed previous economies throughout the whole history of humanity. So, unfortunately, uh, they did have a great chance during the Constitutional Convention in 1787 to put into the Constitution an amendment that abolished privately owned banking in this country. Now, unfortunately, they missed their opportunity and they didn't get to do that. That doesn't mean that we can't amend the Constitution today and make an amendment to where we abolish a privately owned central banking system like the Federal Reserve and give the issuing power of our currency to the Congress where it belongs. Why would we not want our representatives who we elect to control the money? I mean, that doesn't even make sense to me. Anyways, a little brief history of what the founding fathers really thought about privately owned banking. And it says, this is from James Madison. History records that the money changers have used every form of abuse, intrigue, deceit, and violent means possible to maintain their control over governments by controlling money and its issuance. Exactly what we see the Federal Reserve doing today. It can buy candidates. It can contribute to political campaigns. It can do all kinds of things. And the unfortunate thing is, we don't elect anyone in the Federal Reserve. We don't vote for them. They're not representatives. It's a privately owned bank. It's almost like a privately owned institution or a corporation or someone's own private business. But the difference is, it issues our currency for the nation. It's a very dangerous thing, and it's really, in my opinion, the biggest threat we have to the public liberty. You know, free market economy is a beautiful, beautiful thing. The only problem in this country with our free market is the simple fact that we put all our issuing power into a privately owned bank. Who would do that? That way they can issue out how much currency they want, however much currency they want. It's not backed by anything. It's not backed by gold and silver, which the gold and silver standard is not the greatest way to go anyway. But it's not backed by anything. They're printing worthless paper. We're in debt up to our eyeballs. We can't pay it. So my question is, why in the world is the issuing power of our currency not in the Congress where it belongs? We elect those representatives, okay? And not only that, if we were able to do that, if we were able to shut down the privately owned central bank, like the Federal Reserve or whatever name it would choose to go by, because it could just change its name. So if we outlawed a privately owned central bank in this country, you think we're wealthy now? You think we're the richest country on earth now? I guarantee you, if we did that in 10, 15 years, we would be even more wealthy than we have ever been in this country. Because, like I said, free market economy is the greatest economy on the earth. That's why the United States of America is wealthy beyond its means. Look at, photo images, satellite images of South Korea versus North Korea. Well, South Korea has a free enterprise market. South Korea is lit up at night. It has cities. It's wealthy beyond its dreams. North Korea is a communist country. Communism never, never, never works, and neither does socialism. I don't know when people are going to learn that lesson. The only dangerous thing, the only real threat to a free market economy is a privately owned central bank. Other than that, a free market economy has proved time and time and time again it will make your country wealthy beyond its wildest dreams. This is what Thomas Jefferson said about privately owned central banking. He said, "I sincerely believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. The issuing power should be taken from the banks and restored to the people to whom it properly belongs." Thomas Jefferson. And that's exactly what I'm calling for right now. Let's make an amendment giving issuing power to the Congress. When Benjamin Franklin, it was before the Revolutionary War, it was almost 10 years before the Revolution broke out in the United States, or well, what was then the colonies. The British asked Benjamin Franklin why the colonies were so wealthy. Well, we had free market economy. That was one reason we were wealthy. Another reason is this, and this is what Benjamin Franklin had to say. He said, "That is simple." He said, "In our colonies, we issue our own money. It is called colonial scrip. We issue it in proper proportion to the demands of trade and industry to make the products pass easily from the producers to the consumers. In this manner, creating for ourselves our own paper money, we control its purchasing power, and we have no interest to pay to anyone." That's what Benjamin Franklin told them. Well, the British, England had a privately owned central bank. They still do. That's why they're completely and totally broke. And not only that, England is just a hellhole because they've turned into almost really a communist socialist dictatorship. They don't really own guns in England anymore. You have to have a permit to have a pocket knife. Pocket knife, folks. I mean, who in God's name? Man, I carry a pocket knife with me everywhere I go. There's nothing wrong with having a pocket knife to hunt, fish, to protect yourself, self-defense, whatever. Not to mention I have a whole bunch of guns to protect myself too, because that is the prime, as George Washington called it, that's the liberty teeth of the people. Okay, you got to have something to protect yourself from a tyrannical government. Unfortunately, England does not have that. Anyway, but that's a side issue. Once England learned the true power of the colonies at the time, and this is something that's unfortunately not taught in schools or colleges, England issued an act called the Currency Act of 1764. Now, what this did, it basically forbid the colonies from paying private debts with their paper money. Basically, what they had to do was pay private debt or public debt with gold and silver. Now, in 1 year's time, what this did was almost completely bankrupt the colonies. Benjamin Franklin even says in his autobiography, if you read the autobiography of Benjamin Franklin, he even says that after they passed this Currency Act of 1764, 1 year later in 1765, people were so poor and so broke that the streets were almost unpassable, meaning you had people living out in the streets. And he actually even says that one of the main reasons for the Revolutionary War was because we couldn't control our money anymore. We didn't have issuing power. We didn't have the right to print our own currency because the British had stolen it from us. So, and by 1775, British taxation had stole all the gold and silver from the colonies. All of it. So we were completely broke. And then on top of that, the British wanted to go ahead and put all these crazy taxes, like, taxes on our tea, our dice, and things of that nature, cards, which doesn't sound like a big deal to us today, but it would be like somebody putting taxes on, freedom of speech. Like every time we spoke, we had to pay a tax. I mean, it would just be crazy. And so then, you had a big problem after that. In 1781, it was almost the end of the Revolutionary War. We were broke. We were having a very hard time getting any kind of currency or getting any kind of anything from anyone, money from any country, you know. So what we did was establish a Bank of North America. And that wound up basically not working because the founding fathers were smart and they realized, hey, wait a minute. You know, we don't want privately owned banking in this country. This might not be a good idea. So they shut it down in 1785 because they refused to reissue a charter for the bank. And then, you know, this is a huge thing in American history. This keeps happening again and again. It's an argument between the Congress and that privately owned bank. Who should control the currency? Who can issue the currency? And unfortunately, like I said before, the Founding Fathers missed a huge chance in 1787 in the Constitutional Convention to actually outlaw privately owned central banking. But I agree with what Jefferson said. You know, give the power to print and issue money to the people where it belongs. Everything in this country belongs to the people. The government belongs to the people. The military, all of that. This is the people's country. So that, to me, is the biggest danger to the public liberty, is the Federal Reserve banking system. I do think that we should amend the Constitution. We should add an amendment to the Constitution that outlaws privately owned central banking and gives the issuing power of our currency to the Congress where it belongs, to our elected representative. Okay, so anyways, long live liberty, long live the United States, and long live free market economy.